the fans is what gets you going. So I think it'd be very difficult to play a season without fans and have some quality of sports.
Hi, welcome to TSN In Depth. I'm Rick Westhead. I'm joined by Markus Naslund today. Markus, can you tell me how Sweden is managing through the pandemic right now?
Well, I think Sweden is obviously affected just like every other country in the world, but the government has taken more of a liberal stance and given us a chance to live a somewhat normal life, even though there is definitely restrictions.
How has life remained the same in Sweden now versus before the pandemic?
Well, schools up till grade 9 has kept open the whole time. Restaurants have restrictions, but you can still visit restaurants. And gyms, same thing. There is restrictions, but you can still go about your day.
How fearful are you for yourself, for your family, for your friends? When you see some of the news that we're facing every day.
Well, it's more the elderly. I mean, my parents, my mom is in the hospital now for different reasons, but we're not visiting elderly people. There is risks, obviously, for our generation or younger, but I think it's more out of the respect for the older generation and how tough it has affected them.
Markus, you talked about the more liberal approach that Sweden is taking, allowing for students to stay in school, for restaurants to stay open, although on a little bit of a different basis with more spaces between customers, I'm assuming. How usual is it for Sweden to kind of chart its own course and to find its own way on, major decisions like this compared to the rest of the world?
Well, I think it's a well-educated country to begin with, and I think that's a reason why we've had success in a lot of different fields. But we also have a system here where the citizens believe in our leaders and our government, and they don't have to put a law on things for us to do it. They have done quite a few studies now how the citizens are viewing the handling of this situation, and they've gotten good results. It's a socialist country. It has been for a long time, and I think times like these shows that we have a good, strong traditional system that works.
At the end of March, several thousand scientists actually wrote an open letter to the Swedish government asking for more restrictions. What do you remember about what the government's response was? And was there any public reaction to something like that, to a challenge to the way things were?
Well, I got to start by saying that I'm not an expert, but I know that there was Swedish professors coming out yesterday too and challenging the way they've handled this corona situation. But I don't know what to say about that question. I think that the main thing is that we only time will tell if they've made the right decisions. But the general feeling is that we do trust the decisions that are being made, and they change every week. So we just got to go with the flow and trust that we're doing the right things.
What do you think is the general mood in most homes across Sweden right now about the approach that the government's taking?
I think the majority believe it's even though it might be a slower process, you might not have that steep curve, and the situation is going to last for a longer time. I'm hoping that we will save lives from it, and we also have both businesses, but even maybe more so the mental health part of it being okay, because I think it puts a strain on people if you get locked down or if you barely can get out to see the sun. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that the specialists from our side there have done the right thing.
There's been a lot of talk about when will these leagues and professional sports come back? What would it be like? Like, help me understand what the mindset of an athlete would be like going into an NHL arena and playing a game without any fans there, in quiet, basically.
Yeah, well, we had that situation here in my hometown. The Modo team has worked hard. They got relegated maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and had a chance now to climb back up to the highest division, and played were supposed to play, I should say, a playoff series, and they played. They opened up on the road and won that game, and then they came back home, and it was empty. There was no spectators allowed, so they said it was the weirdest feeling. So I think it'd be difficult to push yourself the way you do when you know you have your fans behind you. The fans is what gets you going. So I think it'd be very difficult to play a season without fans and have some quality of sports.
If you were still an active player, Markus, and the NHL came out in the coming weeks and said, okay, we're going to try this, we're going to try playing games in an empty arena, what are some of the different factors that would go through your mind that you'd be thinking about when you were deciding whether to go back to North America and leave your family in Sweden to live in isolation and take the risks that would come along with doing that?
Well, I would go. Obviously, you're committed to your team, even though you're more committed to your family. But it's weird to have a stoppage in play and not have a champion for that season, and especially for the teams that have played so well and have a chance to put themselves in the history books. So it's got to be a difficult decision, and then obviously the economy of it as well. When you're losing money every day, you're not playing. So I think as a player, you would just like we do now in Sweden, trust the people that are making the decisions. They're there for a reason, and just obey.
Looking forward, seeing all the headlines that we see about the economy of the world and what's happening to businesses, how different do you think the businesses of hockey is going to be when we finally do come out of this?
Yeah, I think every business is going to be different. On the other hand, you need people. I think people need entertainment, and whether it's going to the movies or watching sports. So that's a big part. And I think you notice that too when sports is gone, how big of a void there is with not watching and talking about hockey or other sports.
Again, from the perspective of a pro athlete, what's happening to the body of NHL players right now when you've been out of game shape and in your apartment or in your home for the last month? How are you physically changing, and how hard is that going to be to get back to what we're used to as game speed?
Yeah, again, I don't know what the protocol is for the players, if they're set on doing different training sessions every day, or if it's up to every individual. But it's definitely a lot easier to push yourself when you're in a group, and with the uncertainty, it could be a risk of taking a shortcut. But I think once you get the group together and have a chance with the training staff and all the facilities, I think in a few weeks, guys are in such a good shape that in a few weeks they should be in game shape.
All right, Markus, thanks very much for your time and for the conversation. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. All the best, Rick.